Playable High Elves and Ammani. First midnight leak. Okay, listen to me, guys. Before we get into this, I know this is Doran, and people are gonna freak out. Oh, the Doran's talking a bunch of shit. This isn't true. Look, I said this before, and I'll say it again. If you know anything about elven lore, you know the Ammani trolls are directly tied to elves. It's been a conflict. The trolls and elves going at it from the past was a big thing. And I was saying this from the very beginning. If Midnight is, in fact, an elven expansion, then there's no way we are not going to get some new Ammani troll lore, which to me is badass. I can't wait for. It looks like there's some hints that we're actually going to get it. Now, whether or not they'll be playable or not, I don't know. Maybe Doran's speculating on that. We're going to see what his evidence is here. But I am excited to see that there is, in fact, some evidence that Ammani trolls are going to be relevant in Midnight. Let's see what Doran has to say about all this.
We may just be looking at our first official leak for the Midnight expansion that will be announced in 3 weeks from this video. You all know about the Elven reunion happening, which will involve the High Elves, obviously, and the Ammani will definitely be a huge part of this expansion as they control half of Quartalas, and Quartalas is getting revamped. Other than a few hints we got these past few months, Blizzard just released strange videos on the French and the German promotional channels talking about the Ammani and the High Elves setting their differences aside and looking towards the future. Now you may think this is just a lore video, but the weird part is the High Elf is in Stormwind while the Ammani troll is located in Orgrimmar. Keep in mind, the Ammani have never joined.
I spit on the Horde. You guys remember that whole cinematic? But this is what I would expect the Ammani trolls to be more sided with the Horde, and then the High Elves to be more sided with the Alliance. Of course, that does make sense.
The modern Horde, so they shouldn't be in Orgrimmar, and this is info from just a few days back. So let's look at everything we currently know. So you can literally...
I mean, the Ammani trolls did hate the Horde, but that was their leader who we kill in the raid dungeon there. So I don't think they still hate the Horde. They probably are okay with the Horde now.
Talk to the Imancius, the Old Devouring, in your own personal chat, or Sergeras, and ask them what they think about the universe, all in Polybuzz, the best chat app out there. You can literally write the whole wiki page on your favorite lore figure with a complete backstory, create the voices, the images, and then have conversations with them, or even your own WoW character.
Yeah, Jones, I think playable ethereals are more likely thing that we're going to get than either of these two races here. Well, we'll see.
So pretty much since Midnight was announced back in 2023, we knew that the expansion would be set in Quartalas. We knew the Ammani trolls are definitely going to be a big deal. There's literally no way to make this expansion in this setting and to just ignore the Ammani trolls. Keep in mind, back in the old days of Azeroth, the Ammani controlled like 1/5 of the planet, and in particular they had been living in these lands for thousands and thousands of years. But of course, that was when Kalimdor was one mega continent and it wasn't split like it is today. Since then, they were split apart, but even then, they had very firm control over the northern eastern kingdoms.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically the expansionist, attitude of the High Elves that led to the wars with the Ammani trolls, right? They're pushing down here. There's a ton of lore behind not only the Ammani and the High Elves, but kind of their uniting, or the alliance with the humans. That was really where it started. Basically, you had the Ammani trolls being attacked from both sides. You got the humans and the High Elves going at it with them. So their hatred for them, it runs deep with the Ammani. So, that kind of lore I would love to explore more. Zul'Aman, obviously. If Zul'Aman could return in some shape or form, I would be down for that. I think that'd be cool. Whether or not it's a Mythic Plus broken up kind of raid or a return to Zul'Aman raid. Maybe we get an up-res Tiger mount. That'd be cool. I love the Ammani lore, so I'm down for this.
Until the Night Elves arrived from Kalimdor, took over their land, and later they turned into High Elves. This would be a process of several thousands of years where they became arch enemies. In fact, despite their crazy long history, they never really had peaceful relations. There were a few really terrible wars, but it was mostly hostile, and despite the High Elves objectively being superior in terms of weapons and magic, the Ammani still remain up to this day. We've seen them try to rekindle their empire on multiple occasions, and even back in TVC, they were a significant part of Quartalas. So the point is, revamping Quartalas means revamping the Ammani, which means Zul'Aman, new troll cities, new troll models, and with this new information, finally playable Ammani, which would be super interesting. On the other hand,
now, if we got playable Ammani, I just want to be buff trolls. They got to be beefy. That's what they'd have to be.
The High Elves, which are technically all Blood Elves before Warcraft 3, and while they're technically a part of the Alliance, they were never really playable for the Alliance. The lore is a bit strange because, as I said, all Blood Elves used to be High Elves, and when Quotalas was destroyed by Arthas, they lost something crazy like 90% of their population, and it is mainly the diaspora that lived in places like Dalaran and Stormwind that were never transformed, and they remained in their original form. The High Elves, though, are the original, like the OG Alliance race, which is weird that they're not.
I hate the way Blizzard gave the Alliance High Elves. Everyone was bitching about it. The Alliance were like, give us High Elves, and they gave us Void Elves, and then they later on allowed you to basically turn a Void Elf into what looks like a High Elf. It's honestly a shit way of giving the Alliance High Elves. I think we should have gotten it like as a full-on race with tattoos and everything. Like that could have been their differentiator and like additional customizations that are different from Blood Elves. I think we should have had a proper High Elf race introduction. The Void Elves, to me, still are like, they're a play on the story of what they knew was coming and all this stuff, but were they necessary as a race? And not only that, people talk about, well, High Elves are so far in between in terms of their race size. The Void Elves are even smaller than the High Elves. So if the Void Elves could join, if there's enough of them to join the Alliance, then there was definitely enough High Elves to join the Alliance. I think it would have been great if they just kind of looked like, what's her name? The freaking all the sisters, right? The Windrunner sisters. We've seen what High Elves look with them. They got tattoos. They look a bit different than what you would consider to be a Blood Elf. They're a little bit less refined, and you know they're a bit more in terms of like their ability to live out in the wilderness and all that shit because of all the stuff they've been through. There could have been things that Blizzard could have done to give a differentiating look for High Elves, but we didn't get that. I'm pretty sure we will see a much larger Zul'Aman zone with ziggurats that are planned during the vanilla but never materialized. Yes, there were plans for the Ammani back in vanilla WoW. Yeah, so there are things I'm sure that they can go back to the drawing board on and re-implement. The Alliance should just be deleted. What a ridiculous statement, Tidewell. What a ridiculous... Sam rushing me to AOTC. We're going to do
it. The original, like the OG Alliance race, which is weird that they're not playable if we discount the Void Elves, which is like something in between.
Basically what Illyria looked like pre-joining the Void. That's what I think a High Elf should look like. A bit more buff and tattooed.
In between. Keep in mind, back from the early RTS games, the elves were an iconic Alliance race, and even in Warcraft 3 there were multiple blue-eyed high elven characters, but since TBC, the Blood Elves were strictly a horde race, which was always a little bit
hurt.
So now with the midnight announcement happening in 3 weeks exactly from the release of this video, we have some official information that they may finally be happening as playable races. One of the early hints we got for playable High Elves was in the housing trailer from about 6 months ago that you may remember, where they first showed us what player housing would look like, and in that trailer the main character was obviously an elf, but I would say it's so suspicious that they showed everything but his eyes. In a few shots it seemed like they were purposefully hinting at it as—
Wait, he was an elf? What? I thought he was a human.
Let's be real, the only difference between High Elves and Blood Elves is the eye color and the faction.
What gave it away that he was an elf? What, does he have like long eyebrows or something? Am I missing something from this trailer? I thought this was a human. What the hell? Okay. I must have missed something.
The only difference between High Elves and Blood Elves is the eye color and the faction that they're currently a part of.
He's skinny? Maybe,
yeah. The second big hint was in the announcement itself, when they told us that an elven reunion will be happening. This was information that was repeated multiple times over, but it was never really elaborated what this reunion means. Are all elves becoming neutral? Is Silvermoon becoming neutral? Are they trying to consolidate all these factions of the elves?
Silvermoon's gonna be neutral. That's a guarantee. I'll tell you guys that right now. I'll bet this stream on it. Yeah, I won't stream anymore if it's not neutral. How about that? That's how sure I am. Blizzard's spending all this time not only revamping, but basically rebuilding Silvermoon from the ground up. There is no chance that they're putting all this dev power and time into completely redoing Silvermoon, and it's not going to be the capital city of that expansion. The Midnight expansion's capital city will be Silvermoon. It will be a neutral city. You cannot unite the elves by leaving half the elves of the world out of the expansion, right? So we're going to have a callback to the elves. They're all going to go to Silvermoon. We're going to have night elves in Silvermoon, void elves in Silvermoon, all the elves going back, high elves in Silvermoon. That's all going to happen. Those are all Alliance elves. They're coming back. It's going to be the hub city. Watch and see.
Are night elves joining
Clip
the
it.
elves, or the Naga joining the elves? There are too many questions, but what is certain is that high elves are literally the elves, the main elven race of Silver Moon, and they will without a doubt be involved no matter what happens. Now, the biggest bit of evidence that the community has been discussing over the past week or so are two oddly suspicious promotional videos that came directly from Blizzard that they kind of pushed under the radar because they only released it on their French and German channels, and these are two preparation posts for Midnight with possibly some hints hidden in plain sight. The dialogues are same in both languages with the exact same translation, and this is actually a discussion between high elves that are in Stormwind and the Ammani trolls that are in Orgrimmar about their shared history, and it is a really weird thing that they just kind of brought out of nowhere. I'm not going to go into the exact dialogue, but the meaning is the troll is saying that the elves came in with their castles, the elves say they thought they were eternal, they were untouchable. The troll then complains that the elves, full of pride and magic, settled like it was their land. The elf complains about the scourge that came to their kingdom. The trolls say how they fought the elves for so long. The elf says how the scourge absolutely obliterated and desecrated their kingdom. The troll talks about the troll wars, the union with the humans that the elves made, and the elf talks about how the Sunwell was stained. The conclusion of this promotional video is that the troll says that it doesn't matter who started it first. Both sides are scarred, full of wounds, both their people lived through terrible times of wars and destruction, but they need to stop counting wounds and remember who
This was like an advertisement campaign? This seems awfully long for an ad to run. Where the hell? This was in France and Germany. Sometimes the WoW team does weird things overseas.
The elf agrees, say they will not forget either. So the entire point of this is that the two races acknowledge their terrible history of thousands of years of war. Both sides have a point and they want to look towards the future with it and what is coming, which is strongly hinting that these two races could finally be living in peace after all this time, after being
another death.
Uvo, thank you for the Prime sub. 8 months, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, the two races living in peace. I mean, yeah, there's no more faction conflict. Now, Blizzard did say that there's going to be somewhat of a rekindling of the faction conflict. So maybe this is what they're talking about. Maybe the Ammani trolls are going to join the Horde, the High Elves are going to join the Alliance, and then you're going to have like a bit of conflict in that neither side likes each other, so they're going to try to pull each other's side into a conflict with each other. And then it's not going to happen, obviously, because Blizzard's all about, you know, what's it called? Getting really close to that final bus and then stopping. You know, they take their hands off the wheel right before it happens. So that's probably what it's going to be. Is we're going to be close to a conflict, and then it's not going to happen because everyone knows factions don't exist in this game anymore.
Sworn enemies for so long. This makes complete sense as the Void Invasion will affect both of them as they're obviously neighbors, and it might finally be time to set differences aside. Now, why this is a hint for allied races is due to the fact how the video was visually represented. This dialogue is showing an elf in Stormwind saying all this stuff in the Alliance capital, and the troll is located in Orgrimmar, which is, you know, obviously the Horde capital. To make this even weirder, the troll in the video in Orgrimmar is a Darkspear model, which a lot of people think debunks this potential leak. It makes absolutely zero sense why a Darkspear troll would say all this stuff when they had nothing to do, like literally zero.
This guy was a great character, man. There was some really good storytelling in BFA. There was, honestly. The music, everything about these cinematics, these were great. I miss these like high-res cutscenes. These things were cool.
To do with the Ammani. First of all, the Darkspear are jungle
Sour
trolls,
Fang, Zappy
trolls.
Boy.
They are mortal enemies of the Ammani. They don't even live in the same place. They live on completely different sides of the continent, like their ancient homeland. The troll dialogue, though, is 100% Ammani dialogue. It is talking about the elven arrival to quote the loss. Some people say this is for two reasons. If they put in the Ammani model doing the talking, it will be too much of an outright hint. Plus, the Ammani model is actually really outdated. Second is that the Ammani are 100% getting new models as forest trolls in Midnight, if they're playable or if they're not playable, because they will definitely be major characters, and the last model is from, like, what, Cataclysm? So if they just put in the Ammani model,
No, they would need a new model for sure. The Ammani model as it currently stands is like 3 polygons, so you can't do that. It would look freaking stupid. But they could easily do it with some, like, re-rigging of the, like, an orc body. Like, they've done shit like this before. We've seen it. Basically, the Volpera are just goblins. The Volpera are goblins, but you add like an anal plug foxtail and a fox head, and there you go. You got Volpera. That's what they are. So we've seen this done before. They take a skeleton that already exists. That's an easy flip because all the armor and everything still fits the same, and you add a different head. So this is basically take the orc body, maybe the upright orc body, because we have that in the game now too, and then put a troll head on it, like a beefy Chad troll head on it. And there you go. That's your Ammani troll rig. That'd be easy. Obviously, high elves are really easy to do. It's the elf skeleton. So these two, to add them into the game, wouldn't take much work, which makes them more likely, actually, than, say, a completely new rig like we're seeing with the ethereals. But I still think the ethereals are more likely.
Would be big news, like everyone would be talking about the new Ammani model, which would definitely be a hint. Another important point to keep in mind, the high elves are technically a part of the alliance, and they have been a part of the alliance since classic. The only thing is they're not playable. The Ammani, though, are not in fact a part of the horde, and there is no reason why they would be talking to us in Orgrimmar. The Ammani, through Zul'jin back in the day, were a part of the old horde, the demonic controlled horde. Furthermore, there is one forest troll tribe that is officially a part of the horde, but these are not the Ammani. So the Quatala's Ammani have never been a part of the current playable faction, and Blizzard showing them talking in Orgrimmar does definitely hint at a few things. Now, from a completely realistic side of things, this would be such an easy addition for Blizzard that the question is why they haven't done it so far. It would be super simple way for them to stack the midnight announcement and hype with literally minimal effort, and it might not even be the only new playable race or class. Keep in mind, high elves are literally the same as the blood elves, like exactly the same, identical. Zero difference other than the eye color, and even that is debatable today with some changes with the Fel. Them adding them would essentially just be giving blood elves to the alliance. The Ammani trolls are different,
which Blizzard already did.
Different. They're a bit wider.
I mean, that's what Blizzard did with the with the void elves. So I mean, that's why this feels like a bit unlikely. They even gave the colorway, like you can literally make a void elf look like a high elf. So Blizzard's already done this. That's why I said if they do give high elves officially to the alliance, give them some additional customization, some new facial variants, and give them tattoos. I think that's the way you differentiate them.
They're a bit larger, but still, it's not exactly a brand new race that they need new concepts for or anything. Like, they have been long established in the game. This would be essentially the same as them adding Magar orcs and regular orcs, in a way, skins with some visual
same way with Magar orcs. Basically, that's exactly what I'm saying they should do. That's a great example. You got the Magar orcs, basically they have different skin colors, and then they're facially, they have some additional face customizations that didn't exist for regular orcs, like the ones with these spears in the forehead and all that stuff. So yeah, you do the same exact, take that playbook, same thing for high elves on the alliance.
Changes. The elven reunion was promised in midnight. The Ammani will be a big deal, and by the way, they're setting them up. Hopefully they're not going to be villains and yet another Scarlet Crusade that Blizzard just pulls out of their villain sleeves every few months. You gotta admit, it is definitely strange that Blizzard would post this on both the French and the German promotional side. There is still a possibility that these are just random localized teams doing their own thing and just messing up without thinking too much about it, but I do think they have some centralized directive from Blizzard headquarters. They're not just making these videos randomly, so it is entirely possible we could be seeing the Ammani and the High Elves as allied races in the midnight announcement. Thanks for watching. Check out the Thinkers were cancelled last minute, how Blizzard actually developed them by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on the Roman Empire that I've recorded live on site in Malta by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Look, could it happen in the announcement of midnight? Yeah. Do I think it's unlikely? Yeah, I do. But if they were ever going to introduce some playable Ammani trolls and high elves into the game, yes, the midnight expansion would be the time to do it, no doubt. And I saw comments about Silvermoon being the hub city. It's going to happen, guys. Don't fight me on it. There's no reason to deny the truth. Someone said that, oh, they're just redoing it because you can't fly in the city. They could have done that easily. They did it with a bunch of the old cities already in the game. That would just take a minimal work. They can just fill out the skybox there and get ready, put the rooftops on all the shit. But Blizzard already said they're doing way more than that. They're completely they're even redoing all the items in the city, the benches, the bookshelves, we've seen all these new assets. They're not putting in all this work for it to just be a forgotten horde city still. It's going to be a major hub city. There's going to be quest lines in it, everything going on, big story moments in it. It's going to be a hub city, I'm telling you guys. But overall, playable high elves and Ammani? Maybe. Nice video from Doran.